What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Dream Chasers Ground Zero. Today, I have with us Mateo Hernandez. Mateo, would you mind just sharing a story with us of your personal ground zero moment? And, I explained a little bit to you before we started recording today about what that is, but, just go ahead and explain what that is to you and a little bit about yourself, and we'll go ahead and go from there.
Alrighty. Hey, Aaron, really appreciate you having me on your show. I'm very honored to be here. It's been a while and it's nice to see you again. So my ground zero moment, I would say, would be right after high school. I wasn't able to go to the university I wanted to go to, which was Florida Gulf Coast University, which is where I'm currently attending. I went to a community college called Florida Southwestern State College. And at the time I was upset because academically I was not where I should be, where the standard should be. And I ended up going to FSW, and it was a great time. So I would say that was difficult for me because I had a goal of where I wanted to go, and I ultimately couldn't go there. And at the time, I didn't know what I wanted to do for my career. So I would say that would be my ground zero moment, just out of high school, not going where I wanted to go. And it was a pleasant surprise that FSW was actually a great experience for me on multiple levels. So it worked out in a sense with FSW, and then I eventually was able to get that goal of going to FGCU. It brought my grades up, transferred over there, and things have been going smoothly ever since. So it's my ground zero.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. 100%. I love that life just sometimes has a way of working itself out. So, like that was kind of like your sign, I guess, where, like you had to kind of put in that desired work to get the desired result. So, I think that was like an important thing that you've then learned to incorporate in many different things since then, of course. So, I guess my next thing that I want to ask here is that, like, after that moment, like, obviously there was some disappointment, like that you didn't quite get that mark that you had originally planned. But going from there is then you had to, I don't want to say settle, but then you had to make a different choice in going to like Florida Southwestern, like you said. In doing so, like, how did you kind of keep your head on straight and then say, like, instead of kind of just, accepting defeat, that you said, you know what, okay, like I have to pivot a little bit here. I'm going to switch it up. I'm going to go to school over here. I'm going to bring my grades back up, and then I'm still going to achieve that goal that I originally had. Like, how were you able to kind of keep your head on straight during that time and still achieve that goal?
It's a good question. I stayed focused and level-headed through just putting one foot in front of the other every day. So I think it's good to be somewhat optimistic about where you are, because in my head at the time, I had to stay at FSW to get into FGCU. Now, I didn't have to go that route. I had other options. I could have gone into the military. I could have gone to a trade school or a vocational school. At the time, I wasn't really considering those options. I just, my one singular goal was to get to FGCU. So it was just, the goal at FSW was to just get the grades up, to do well in all my classes, get the requirements I need for my degree. So that was the goal. So I tried not to look too far into the future, and I tried to focus on how I can make where I am now better, and how I can be happy in the place that I'm at, even though it's not where I want to be. And that worked out very well for me. I had success through that. I also had a good support group, which would be my family. My family, my mother and my father were very, they've supported me. They've supported and backed me my entire life, and gave me a lot of encouragement, which I think helped me tremendously through that time. Because you have to understand, out of high school, all my friends, majority of my class went to Florida State University, went to University of Florida. These are big, well-established schools. And so I felt very small. I felt very small, excuse me, because I felt like almost like a failure. I'm like, ah, I didn't do what I was supposed to do. And I'm seeing my friends go off to these big universities, and I'm here at this tiny little school. But really, you can do a lot with what you got if you have the right mindset and if you have the right people in your corner. Because if you have the wrong people in your corner, it can be very difficult. You can still push through because there's obviously stories of people pushing through that. Uh, David Goggins, etc. So that's what I did. So yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the most important things that you did there is that like you kind of saw it for what it was, and you said, "Yeah, I didn't quite make it to where I wanted to be, but what can I do about it?" And you really broke that down into actionable items per se, that steps that you could take to reestablish your footing and to get to where you wanted to go. You said, "Okay, well, I got to bring my grades up." So then you made that priority number one. And then you said, all right, I got to put my head down and make this happen. So then you did that. And obviously, having a support group in your corner is more than important. And, like some of us don't exactly have that. But at the same time, like you said, there are stories of people pushing through. And sometimes you have to kind of be that for yourself, which in a way is what you did. That's where you said, I didn't quite get there, but now I'm going to put in the work to get there. Like sometimes we all just kind of need that little wake up call, I guess you could say, where we don't quite make it, we fail, we make a mistake, any of those sort of things. But at the same time, I think there's a lot of beauty in that, because our failures really are there to kind of teach us more so than anything else. And I think a lot of us kind of get caught up in being a quote unquote failure when that's really not what it is. Like, I mean, failing or making a mistake, like, yes, is doing something wrong, but it's not there for you to, allow that to become your identity. It's there for you to learn from and then reapply to do it correctly again, which is more like exactly what you did. You said, like, what I was doing here wasn't working. I have to change this up. I have to establish some new habits. I have to change direction to still get to where I want to go. What my prior plan wasn't working. And that's what I think is really important in this story here, is because you didn't allow that misstep, that mistake to become your identity. You said, that's not me. I do have what it takes, and I am going to put in the work that I need to put in to get to my desired result.
Right, exactly. And there were plenty of opportunities at the state college. I was actually going to go to Italy for an overseas trip, but COVID hit, and the world changed. So there's opportunities if you know where to find them, know where to look for them. And I think that it's really just incremental improvements every day. That's how you get to the big goals, really. And that's probably the hardest thing for me to do. I think it's the having a routine and the habits that's quite literally it's sink or swim, really. If you have good habits, if you have a good work ethic, you will succeed eventually. Doesn't matter how many failures you have, because we all know that's a learning moment. You did something wrong, right? You take a math test, trigonometry, pre-calc, whatever. You get a 95. You did something wrong. You didn't get the 100%. So it's just a mistake somewhere. Sometimes it's hard to find that mistake. Sometimes you come across problems that are really complex. That's why we have advisors. That's why we have counselors, because there's some obstacles in the academia and other spaces in life where you need a couple brains to come together to figure out, okay, what's the solution to my problem? So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that one of the issues with that is that, like, I don't know if I can say, like, with our generation or with the world or whatever, like, I'm not speaking out to like solve any sort of huge problem here, but that there's like this weird stigma that, like, around letting go, that we think that in letting something go, that it's just going to disappear, that those memories, that pain, that really whatever that is for you is just, it's just going to go away, it's just going to disappear. And sadly, that's just not true. But Where I think this is extremely important is because what you mentioned is incremental improvements every single day. And what you have to do is you do have to carry that with you. Like, it is not just going to disappear. You have to carry that pain with you for, however long that it takes, but you bring that with you and you have to make actionable decisions every single day to identify otherwise. And what that means is that, like, yes, you failed, but you can't allow yourself to be a failure every day. Like, you have to carry that with you. And then you make the mistake the next morning to say, you know what? I'm going to get X amount of work done because I am not a failure. I'm going to get this done and I'm going to feel better about myself. And you just have to do that every single day. Like you mentioned, little bit incremental bits of progression. And that's where the real growth comes from, reaching those large goals, like you mentioned. And it's like, and every single day you do that, and you'll start to notice, like, and some of it's going to be completely subconsciously, but you will start to notice that that load, that pain, whatever that is that you're carrying with you is going to get lighter. And that's where I think that, a lot of people don't understand that that's that little bit of consistency and that little bit of progression every single day is really kind of the secret to moving past those points.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. It's, you know, pain is, you cannot live in regret, right? Regret does nothing for you except bring you misery and pain. And also, I'm 21 years old. I'm still very young.
Mhm.
I have time to be stupid, but I don't want to use my time to be stupid, you know. And a lot of people think, a lot of people go to college and these big universities to have fun. I remember one of my professors actually said that he took a whole year just partying, getting drunk, just doing whatever. And he dropped out and then he reapplied. And he was like, okay, I'm gonna get my things, my life together, right? So, I think the younger you, because the thing is, responsibility is inevitable, and we all have to choose a path through life. We all have to choose a career. It's inevitable. So you have to grow up. You know, you can grow up. People choose to grow up when they're 22. Some people choose to grow up when they're 30. Others choose to grow up when they're 40. Others choose to grow up when they're 50. Problem is, once you get older and older and older, people do not look at you the same. Because when you're younger, you have all this potential of what you could be, and everybody wants you. Companies want internships. I mean, you get opportunities all over the place. I still get them. I'm a junior at FGCU. I'm still very young. This is the time to be reading, to be learning, and to be gaining experience, and to be taking risks as well, calculated risks. So, and I think, like you said, nobody's a failure. Anyone who calls anyone a failure for trying, for launching a new venture that failed, or for chasing after some dream they have, they're not a failure. Even if it doesn't come true, at least he tried. There's hundreds of thousands of people that go to the grave, never even attempting. What's worse, to die knowing that you never even tried, or to die knowing that you tried and you failed, but you gave it your all. There's a quote by this philosopher Seneca. He says that the bravest sight in the world is to see a great man, struggle against adversity. I love that quote so much because it's so true. It really is, and that's what I struggle with every day: adversity. The little things for me. It's just the little things. And people that say you're a failure are people that have no experience. They have no idea what it takes to start a business, what it takes to go after a dream, and to do what they really want to do. They have no idea. It's just all noise. It's all noise. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of that, at least in my personal experience and in some of what I've heard from others, that the people that are going to verbally call you a failure per se is precisely the person that never tried to achieve what they wanted. And now they're just projecting that onto you. So, haters gonna hate, for lack of a better term. But I think that, something really important in there, I mean, is that a lot of people need to realize you have to fail and you have to make mistakes to kind of learn who you are. just the biggest part of that is, like, as mentioned earlier, you can't let those mistakes and failures decide who you are. You have to decide for yourself. Just because you failed, it does not mean you are a failure. Just because you lost does not mean you are a loser. Just because you made a mistake doesn't mean you are one. Like, you can't let that decide who or what you're going to be. Like, this is all just a learning experience for all of us. We've all been there. We're all here. It's just what you do with it now. It's what you do after the fact that decides who you are. Are you going to get up and get, if you lift one more rep? Are you going to get up and get one more hour in? Are you going to get up 1 hour earlier and do this much work before whatever? Like, whatever that looks like for you, it's what you decide to do with it that truly decides who you are, not those prior experiences. Like you mentioned, if you are trying, you're already masses ahead of most people, because most people are just going to sit there and dream and they're never actually going to try anything. So at least, carry with you that little win every morning, that you are getting up and that you are trying something. You're doing a lot more than most people are right now. So, keep that in mind for sure. And, just to reiterate, like, you decide for yourself what those failures and mistakes mean. Either you're going to reapply those and, use that as continued motivation into achieving that goal, or you're going to let those failures, eat at you, and then you really are going to become one. To me, the only failure you can achieve is not trying to reach whatever potential that is that you have in your mind, because we all have one. We all have this picture in our heads of something that we want to be, something that we want to do, somewhere we want to be, someone we want to be with, any of those things. We all have that mental picture. But the only failure to me is you never even striving to realize that picture. Because, like, if it really does mean something to you and it really is something you're passionate about, like, you're not just going to forget about it. It's going to eat you for the rest of your life, and you're really just going to end up bitter.
Yeah, you're talking about people, the visionary, right? People have a vision for what their life will look like. And I think that, I think that, I mean, we look at all these great, not celebrities, what would you call them?
Like a
Success
guru.
stories. Yeah, I mean, success stories in general, right? So it could be an actor, singer, businessman. Let's take, people. I think a thing that's, it's kind of bizarre to me. People look at these people, and some of these are hyper successful individuals. So some of that is unattainable to a certain extent. But I think, success. There's not one way to define what success is. I don't think it's defined by money necessarily. I think there's multiple things that define success in your career and life. But besides that, I actually wanted to piggyback on the point we were talking about potential, which I think potential is really interesting. I think that we don't know how far we can go if we just go all in on something, right? And we just put 100% effort. We put our time, we allocate all our resources to this one goal, whatever it is, and whatever you do in life, specifically career, let's say. So if more people just, and it could be a plumber, an electrician, and some kind of engineer, it could be someone who's in software, whatever it is, if people just put everything, lose my words here. Just go after what I think, let me try to speak for me. Like, for me, I have a good idea of what I want to do. So I'm going to do everything I can to be the best I can. I think that's a better way to put it. So I hope I can live up to my potential, whatever it is. I don't know what it could be in the future, right? I'm hoping it's great. So I think that's what everyone has to do for themselves. Be the best you can be. I think that's what potential is, really, being the best you can be all around, holistically. So yeah, I think it's, and we don't know how far that goes. I mean, imagine if people just did everything they could to be who they are, instead of drifting through life and not caring, being lazy, having a weak mindset, when it comes to life and business, having, going into drugs, sex, all the problems of the world we know people deal. If people just, and it's hard, it's hard. I understand different people come from different circumstances and different upbringings and whatnot. But anyways, yeah, I think I think that's an important point about potential and I think for us, our generation, focusing that we are young, we have so many resources. We have the internet, we have uh, mentors. You and I have mentors. We have, Michael Flight. He's had years and years and years in the real estate industry, and he's passing on that knowledge to me, to you, and to whoever else might want to have it. I think that's so important. Like our parents do not have nearly any of the resources we have today. They just don't. Cars, to the technology we have, just a bunch of stuff. And we're living in a really great age to be successful, to make a lot of money, and to really live a great life. And I think it's kind of sad how everyone's unhappy and nobody can, I guess, have any just peace in general. No peace. People are more rude. I know around where I live, people are very, nobody's in a good place right now, which is disappointing. Anyways, that was very long-winded, but
Yeah, touching back on the point that you made about potential, I think that even goes back to the point that we made before, again, about incremental improvements. Because really, like, that's one of the biggest parts about reaching your potential. Like, it's not all going to happen in one day. Like, you have to make
yeah.
a conscious decision to get a little bit better every single day. And that more or less comes back to the point of compounding. And I know that also piggybacks off of a book that I know you've read called The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. That's a definite recommendation for anybody out there paying attention right now. But like compounding can be good or bad. I mean, like we've talked about already, like you can either choose to make that incremental decision to get better every single day and your compounding can be positive, or you can, choose to neglect whatever those things are, or allow that failure that we talked about to control your life, and then the compounding can be negative. So also another thing that we've mentioned many times today is it has to be a conscious decision and you have to make it for yourself. So I did just kind of want to make that point and also go ahead and plug that book that I know you've read as well. So if you want to add anything as far as your thoughts on that, go ahead.
On the book, no, I think that's the main theme of the book about compounding. I think you touched on it pretty well. I haven't read that book in a while. I read that book a while ago. What did you think about that book exactly? What was your favorite, I guess, takeaway from it?
Yeah, some of it I will admit I haven't like been like completely through it on my own, but I have had it recommended to me by many different sources, and I have like heard many different high level overviews about it. And I just think that it's a really powerful concept that a lot of people don't realize, which like I know we've touched on it multiple times already, but it's just that like greatness doesn't come in a day. Success doesn't come in a day. Like happiness doesn't come in a day. None of that is going to happen instantaneously, which I think is where kind of also touching on your point that a lot of people are just kind of unhappy right now for no apparent reason, but it's just because we all want instant gratification and we don't want to
Yeah.
put in that desired work or the required amount of work to achieve the desired outcome. We want the shortcuts, we want the easy route, and like everybody wants it to be quicker, but like things that are truly worth that sacrifice of time and energy and work aren't going to come instantaneously. Like they require large amounts of work and time and dedication. Like that is why they are such great results, because you have to be great to achieve them. You have to realize that potential in yourself and you have to make the necessary sacrifices to achieve that goal. And that's where I think, like just a lot of people get lost today where like they can't find the easiest route and they think that they're not good enough to put in the work. They think they're not cut from the same cloth as some of these existing professionals that have achieved, like you've mentioned, like hyper wealth, that they think that that's just not them, and then they give up and uh what's the word
No, I know what you're talking about. I think it's that's not even life. Nothing in life is like quick like that. nothing
Mhm.
meaningful, at least. I mean,
Right.
look back to Rome. Rome was not built in a day. It took many, many, many years and a lot of bright minds to make Rome what it was until the fall. So, you know, you build the foundation. If you make a building, right, you need to have a solid foundation first. What's the solid foundation for us in college? Okay, learning how to read, learning how to speak well, learning how to write well. Writing is really important. That's probably my weakest. That's my weakest skill by far. It's writing. I'm a pretty good reader. Speaking still needs work, but I would say I'm better in those skills than writing. But I mean, those three, I think it's important for everyone to master those three because it makes you dangerous in almost any complex job, right? So I think that's really important. And back to like delay of gratification. I mean, even with kids, you know, when you raise kids, like when my mom was raising me, she never, you know, eat your veggies first before you have dessert. That is that's delay of gratification right there. At a very tiny, very small stage of life. As you get older, the delay of gratification increases, right? Because when you have a job, you don't get paid every day. It's usually bi-weekly or, you know, I don't know what, you know, how other companies pay their employees. Usually it's bi-weekly or every other week or every week. I don't know. But that's delay of gratification right there. So that's really important. It's also very hard, but you know, it's necessary to achieve what you want. And the bigger the goals, the longer it takes to achieve them. That's just how it is. So, and there's lots of factors to why people aren't happy. A lot of it has to do with the culture, where it's heading, where it's at right now. It's not in a very good place. Like you said, it's not preaching delay of gratification. It's preaching more of impulsivity and uh, uh, indulging in pleasure wherever you can find it. So I've experienced that myself, you know, whether it's sleeping in too much, sleeping too much, eating too much, whatever it is. I think this leads into another point, which is you need to, whatever is going on in your personal life will translate into everything else you do in your life. So if you are in a very bad mood all the time because of, I don't know, let's say you have some kind of addiction, that's going to affect your job. That's going to affect all your relationships with your parents, your friends, your spouse. So that's why I said it's incremental improvements. The habits are really important because if you have a really good routine, really good habits, everything else will flourish around you, quite literally. You're still going to encounter bumps and whatnot, but as long as as long as everything is okay with you personally, you know, you're healthy, you're well rested, you have energy. Energy is really important. Like a lot of, you know, I know our age kids go out Friday nights, sometimes every night, every weekend. I think just making smarter decisions, make better choices with your time. Doesn't mean you can't have fun. Obviously, you have to have fun. You have to be able to have fun. You have to be able to unwind. You have to be able to work hard and eat well. All of those things are important. So, you know, and I think even I went to my advisor because I wanted to create my resume. There's a bunch of researchers on campus, resume creators. There's writing labs you can go to, and I went to an advisor for my resume, and she was saying a lot of kids don't have a resume. They don't understand. They get out of college, they don't understand why they can't get a job. You know, it's not good. You know, you have to. You really. So, anyways, that's just the state we're in right now. Everyone feels self-entitled to a job, to, you know, a slew of other things. So self-entitlement's not good, in my opinion, because it's like, I deserve this. No, actually, you don't. You have to earn it. You know, that's what hard work is. You work hard and you earn. You get rewarded for it. You don't deserve it. You don't deserve anything.
Yeah,
Which I
100%.
think
I
is a
think
big point.
yeah, I think you touched on a couple great things there. I mean, one being taking time to unwind, and
Mhm.
another like being like I know you talked about like achieving a vision for yourself, and some of that is realizing like what skills you have right now and what ones need work, like you mentioned, like realizing what areas of your life could use potential improvement, and one, figuring out how to improve those, but also realizing what of those skills serves you into achieving that vision in the future. Like if you want to be, I don't know, a journalist, like obviously you have to hone your skills in writing. If you want to be a speaker, you have to become a better speaker. Like it's just little things like that. Obviously, those are blatantly obvious examples, but whatever that is for you, recognize what skills you need to improve to best fit your role or the future that you want to create. And then in taking time to unwind, I think, I mean, it's just really important sometimes. Like burnout is very dangerous and can really lead to a downward spiral, if you will, because like if you are just going all 100% all the time, like you're gonna get tired, and like that's natural, but you're gonna get tired. But like that's okay, but don't go so heavy to the point that you don't even feel like getting up to work. Like that's how you lose passion, that's how you lose friends, that's how you lose, a lot of different things. But in order, like in being able to take a step back and say, you know what, I'm getting a little bit overwhelmed, and like it's not serving my mental health right now, it's affecting my relationships, is extremely important, because then you're able to say like, you know what, okay, maybe I need to take a small step back right now and either reevaluate. Maybe this is a ground zero moment for you. Maybe you need to reevaluate, decide on a new direction, or you just need to take that step back, allow yourself to recuperate, and then come back with a vengeance, if you will, where you just come back better than you were before. Sometimes you just need a little bit of space, and it's okay to ask for that. So I think that is another thing that is really important for some people our age right now. That a lot of people are afraid to turn down opportunities because they think they're missing out on something. But if you just run yourself into the ground, you're going to miss out on a whole lot more than what you would have originally before.
No, absolutely. I think that missing out, that's a real thing too. That's something I struggle with too, missing out on fun stuff, bars, traveling, all that stuff. But you have to realize we're college students, we're broke. This is not really the time to do those things. Everyone's supported by their mom and dad, like majority. Maybe the minority are paying for their apartment, their tuition, all themselves. If they're doing that, they're most likely adults, or maybe they're our age, but that's rare. Um, and I mean, good for them if for those that are doing that, but the vast majority aren't. So it's like, and Instagram is a problem too. Social media, that's been something I've been struggling with. Social media, I honestly hate it. I hate Snapchat. I hate Instagram. I actually do like Instagram, but I'm on it a little too much. But you have to just be careful, because it can play with your head, really, because you see all these people with all these things and these lavish lifestyles. For me, that contributes to the missing out stuff. It's like, oh, well, I see my friends doing this and that. I just choose to shut that stuff off and just focus on things I need to do. And maybe I want to go to the beach and relax, read a book, something like that. I think it's good to just stay in tune with the things you're doing in your everyday life. I think that's important. And I think what you said about, well, I think what's important too is about the burnout is really bad. I think burnout's real simple, like you said. It's like being tired, that's normal. But if you cannot function, that's obviously bad. So I don't like to listen to too many of these business influencers that talk about, the hustle culture. I just don't pay attention to it, because really everybody's got a different story. Everybody's got a different mode of how they operate and how they got to where they were. I don't care where you got to where you were, honestly. I think for the most part, successful people do have some similarities, because I think that's hard work. I think that's having a strong mind and having a good team. I think that's pretty much true for any successful person, specifically for me in the business world. I think those things are true, but I think it's really just discovering these things on your own, and having a small group of people like you have, Adam and Michael and Courtney and the rest of them, having a small little tight knit group that you can ask for advice and whatnot, rather than going searching on the internet to people you don't even know, like Gary, what's his name? Gary Van. I don't know his name. You know what I'm talking about. What's his name? Gary Vaynerchuk. I
Vaynerchuk.
don't know his name. Vaynerchuk. Yeah, I see that guy all over the place. It's like, I don't listen to what he has to say. I don't care what he does. I'm sure he says nice things. It's like I'm not the type of person to, if I had that much success, I wouldn't be doing public speaking. I don't know. That's not my style. Like, I'm not a Tony Robbins type of guy. Like, I much rather, I really do like the podcast. If I was going to do, anyways, we're going into me. Anyways, God, what was my point? Yeah, burnout. So burnout's bad. And then I think that a neat thing I learned from Jordan Peterson, one of my idols, love that guy. He talks about, take a day, right? Do as much as you possibly can in that day. And then the whole goal is to see how far you can push the limits of what you can do. So this is all centered around productivity and efficiency. So it's a really cool experiment. I think it's worth trying for anyone that wants to be more productive or feels like they're not doing enough. Just do that. See how far you can push yourself. And if you push yourself, you're riding the edge of burnout, of like, you can't look at another spreadsheet and type another paper. That's where you know the limit is. It's like, okay, right here, no more. I can't do any more than this. I think that's genius advice, if you ask me. I think it's brilliant. So I've been doing that, and it's been like crazy helpful. And like, another thing too is like, we're much more productive than we think too. If you just put the phone away, obviously we need technology, but if you just, what I do is like, iPhone, right? Everyone has a phone. If I'm doing something on my computer, I won't listen to music. I'll put my phone in another room, or I just put it face down and I just won't touch it. And that's helped me tremendously, because once you're in the zone of work, you don't get out of the zone of work. At least something I've noticed. So I think it's really cool. I think that's how I discipline myself to get things done that need to be done. So yeah.
Yeah, I think the point that you just made about the phones is extremely powerful. And I just want to touch on it here for a second, just because a lot of us, like, I think we've all experienced being in the zone. Like, we all know when we hit that kind of proximal area of where things are just flowing, whether that be typing a paper, listening to music, whatever that is. But like, we all know that feeling of just, like, I'm in the zone right now. And we can all almost, like, maybe not like right now, but like, sorry, point being, we can all also remember a time where the reason we more or less fell out of that zone was because our phone went off and we decided to check it. And then we come back and then all of a sudden have writer's block, or we come back and we all of a sudden can't focus on whatever it is because we heard that little vibration, pattern disrupted, completely shut off that zone of thought that you were in, checked your phone, forgot all about it, and then you never came back to that area of efficiency, whatever the heck you want to call it. But point being, the whole reason that you came out of that was because you decided to check your phone instead of either leaving it somewhere else or whatever exactly you want to do. So what I'm just saying is that point can be extremely powerful for you, as if you put that somewhere that you won't pay attention to it, turn it off, whatever that is. I mean, obviously I understand that if you turn it off, then nobody can message you while you're working. But point being that sometimes like a little thing like that can mean a lot in terms of productivity. So yeah, but I do believe it is about time that we can start winding it down here. I know we've had a lot of different action-packed segment, I guess you could call it, today. But I do want to touch on one other thing before we go. And I know you mentioned before we started recording today that you kind of have a stack of books on the desk there for us of recommendations for, whether that be other people our age or really just anybody, looking to learn a little bit more. So I want to go ahead and turn it over to you to, just give your recommendations for anybody listening right now. And, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
Yeah, 100%. So I'd say first off, so I'll go through quickly. Audiobooks are awesome. Everyone needs to read audiobooks. I remember Michael first told me to read audiobooks. I didn't like audiobooks. I now like audiobooks. They're really great. You move through them really quickly. They're like, some of them are an hour long, some of them are 2 hours long. There's no reason why you can't. listen to them when you're walking, listen to them in the car. Everyone's got time. Like everyone has time, you know, everyone's got time, at least an hour. Everyone has an hour. So if anyone says, I don't have time, it's like, no, you need to carve out time. I don't believe in making time because we can't make time, but we can carve out time we have in the 24-hour cycle. So the first book I've been reading is called If You Really Love Me. It's a really good book. It's by, who's this by? Jason Everett. It's a really good book. It's 100 questions on dating, relationships, and then sexual purity. So I think a lot of people don't know what love is. A lot of people are in terrible relationships, don't know how to navigate finding a partner in general. And this book has really helped me. And I think it's important. I think it's important if you want to find a partner that is competent, intelligent, and that can help you traverse through life, because life is very dangerous and it's not safe. And you want to have someone that can guide you through it. I think that's really important. You know, you don't want to have someone who's harmless. You know, you don't want to have someone who can't take care of themselves. It's not someone you want to be around. Next book I'm reading is called The Bitcoin Standard. Really good book. My man, yeah, my man has it too. Aaron's got it. The Bitcoin Standard, yeah. We both got this book from Michael.
Oh, it's in my
really
book
good
bag.
book.
That's where it is.
It's a really good book. All about decentralized alternative to banking. It talks about hard assets. It talks about all sorts of stuff about, I mean, how can I explain it? It's like, it talks about what money is, how it's used, where it's going. There you go. That's a good way to explain it. I was like, how do I get it? And then this is another book. It's called The Wild Longing of the Human Heart. Got this from my philosophy class. The Search for Happiness and Something More. If you're curious, that's a good book to read. This is my dad's book called Not Tragically Colored. So this is all about freedom, personhood, and the renewal of Black America. So anyone can read this. It talks all about, I haven't yet read this. I have to get started on it, but it's all about, you know, our culture, family, government, poverty, tolerance, all that stuff. There's another book I have not read yet. It's called The Vision of the Anointed by Thomas Sowell. It's all about social policy. Really good book. And then we have Poverty of Nations. This is more of an economic book. This is more about macroeconomics, actually. It's a really good book. I like it just because it's important to, it goes into about how countries get wealthier and the difference between first world countries, second world countries, third world countries, developing nations, things like that, and how how you accumulate wealth over time. And there's a lot of misconceptions on foreign aid, for example, that we won't go into, that kind of blew my mind. But, and then this one's a really good one. I don't know if you've heard about this. It's called Yuval Noah Harari, 21 Lessons for the 21st Century. This book is the bomb. I haven't finished it yet, but I've read the first couple of chapters. It's a big book. I think there's like, how many pages? It's like over 300 pages. But this is a really awesome book. It talks about liberty, equality, work. It talks about big tech. It talks about post-truth, meaning, meditation, religion, immigration, all sorts of stuff. That's a good book. Last one, Wealth Secrets of the 1%. It goes into how it goes into actually the history of wealth and how certain individuals accumulated their wealth. So that's a really good one by Sam Wilkin. That's all I got for you. Well, actually, the audiobooks, I'll go into that real quick. Actually, yeah, I'll go, let me see. So the E-Myth Revisited, that's a good one. Why Men Are the Way They Are. That's a really good one. Anyone, honestly, that's probably one of my favorite books. This is by Warren Farrell. Why Men Are the Way They Are. If you're a lady or a guy, read it. Try to understand how men are. And then this called The Myth of Male Power. That's another good one. It debunks a bunch of myths that both sexes have about each other. That's all I got.
Well, thank you so much, man, for all of those. Definitely some great recommendations in there. And I hope that somebody, listening in today does decide to pick one of those up and find out for themselves. So once again, thank you so much for those. And just in sharing everything today, being willing to come on and share your story, and, brainstorm a couple of different ideas about what's going on in the world today and really what we can do ourselves to, help each other get better and realize that, distant thing that we call potential. So once again, just thank you so much for being willing to come on and share today. Really appreciate it. Just kind of reviewing real quick is, being grateful for your failures, realize them for what they are, learning experiences. Take what happened, learn why it went wrong, what you can do to fix it, do it again and do it again until it works. That is growth and you'll realize that as you go. Taking time to unwind, take time to yourself and really realizing like where your limit is, whether you want to do that Jordan Peterson experiment or not, that is completely up to you, but find your limit and realize where exactly your, zone of optimal efficiency is and find out what that is for you. Realize what you are doing today and how it serves you for your vision of the future. Realize what exactly it is that you're working on today and if or how it serves you at all, and really look at it transactionally and realize is this helping me positively or negatively, and do I need to be doing this or can I get rid of it? Really just taking a different look at what exactly you're working on right now and applying that directly to your life. So with that, everyone, thanks again so much for tuning in today. Mateo, thank you so much, man. This has been great. It was great to see you again. Great to catch up and talk a little bit of shop. So, really enjoyed this one. And I think that the viewers are going to get a lot of value out of it. So thank you so much again. And with that, everyone, always remember, this is Dream Chasers Ground Zero. And there's nowhere to go from here but up. Thanks, guys.